How did you study machine learning, or what kind of ML courses did you take? These are one of the questions that I often get from you all. And today I would like to answer that questions by sharing my honest experience. So some of you might know, because I switched my career towards business consultant to the machine learning engineer. About 4 years ago, that was a time that I was asking myself the same questions that you asked. How am I gonna learn maths? Which kind of ML courses should I take? And especially one of the things that troubled me most was math, because it was just not about the math itself. English is not my first language, which means that if I read equation or like mathematics related book in English, it really troubled me. All the variables, it was something that I haven't learned in my textbook before. For example, they explain like the partial derivative of data with respect to blah blah. It just made my brain freeze. So that was one of the parts that I troubled most. Today, I'll walk you through the 3 steps that actually worked for me, how I built my math foundation, and how I moved into the core deep learning, and how I picked up one specialization in a deep learning using Coursera. So this is a follow-up video on my machine learning roadmap video, expanding the phase 1 and phase 2, where I talked about phase 1 is learning Python and phase 2 is learning Python for machine learning. So if you haven't watched that video, please go back and watch the video. I'll link it on the top above if I don't forget. Okay, let me just give you a context about what was happening. So when I quit my job because I was falling in love with AI and I really wanted to change my career, I was jobless. I told everyone I wanted to change my career toward AI, but I didn't know what to do. So I started to plan out my studies, and one of the things that helped me, and I was staring all the time, was this diagram. I'm sure you would have watched this before. People say data science is consisted of 3 different parts. They say computer science, business domain knowledge, and mathematics and statistics. Computer science, by that time, I was starting my phase 1, the Python studies, and I was working on day-to-day. I was expanding my knowledge, and I thought I might be able to tackle this on my own. And domain knowledge, I worked in business field, so I was pretty confident about that. But the math part, that was a thing that I wasn't sure what to do. The only degree that I had that time was bachelor's degree. I studied business and English. The only course that I took was business statistics course and a college math course. So I started to look around what kind of online courses that I can take. And if one of you have looked around Reddit, everyone recommends Professor Andrew's deep learning courses, and that is registered in Coursera. So I looked up, but it wasn't fully free. I think I remember they only gave like 7 days of trial. So I started to look up if there's any way that I can get this membership for free. And Korean government by that time, I don't know why they were doing that at that exact time, but they were giving out the free annual membership for the Korean young people. Because I was Korean, and I am Korean, so suddenly the door was open. The course that I was hesitating to take, it was fully open, and actually the only door that I had because I couldn't afford any other online courses. So over the next intense year and a half, I took over 10 courses, and I made plenty of mistakes, but here's the path that I would recommend. People say in machine learning, there are about 4 streams that you should be studying regarding math. Linear algebra, calculus, statistics and probability. And you don't need to be mathematicians. You need to have a good enough fluency to kind of follow through the equation, what the paper wrote down, especially about the backpropagation logic of the neural network. And one of the things that I really liked about the Coursera is that there's a course dedicated for mathematics for machine learning, which means that I don't need to zoom in all the unnecessary math stuff. I can just watch those courses that's particularly dedicated to the math needed for the machine learning. I personally took the courses about the linear algebra and multivariate calculus through Imperial College London's specialization course, and I took probability course separately. So there's a similar offering I've looked up, the deep learning.ai course. Try to look at the previews and the courses, the tutorial, and if they provide a free trial about 7 days, you can click around and see which kind of teaching style suits you. And the other thing that I did is just taking the course itself. felt overwhelming, and just looking at all the courses and underlying things just doesn't really felt like I'm sticking to the theory. So what I did, I bought the high school textbook, math textbook, and tried to work through the basics. I solved the basic questions, about at least 5 questions a day. Even though math was not my least favorite, it was one of my favorite subjects in high school. But still, it was by that time, it was about 5-6 years after me graduating the high school. So I had to take time and try to brush up my memories. And it also helped me because I was solving the basic calculus and exercises at the same time, taking the Coursera together. It really helped me to understand the courses a lot easier. So once the maths part clicked and you kind of understand what kind of math is needed and you can solve the basic calculus and linear algebra equation, how the x and y variable moves around. Then I moved to the Professor Andrews Deep Learning Specialization course, specifically on a neural network and deep learning, followed by the convolutional neural network courses. Because by that time I was studying hands-on machine learning book on one side, so I was taking the course and reading those books together. I still felt like, especially on a deep learning part, there was knowledge gap that I should fill on my own. I needed someone to walk me through and didn't feel alone while I was studying deep learning. And about the Professor Andrews course, I'm sure you have seen all the compliments about it. I think his course, there's a special calmness. He explains very complicated concepts into very simple metaphors and clean visualizations. Sometimes it feels like too simple, but it's perfect for the beginners. He explained it in a really gentle way, exactly what beginners need to know. So the course materials are also very excellent. They provide the programming Jupyter notebooks, the lecture notes, the slides. I still have some PDFs saved in my laptop. And they also provide a curated reading list of the papers. So the videos they provide in Coursera is quite short. They provide to 5 to 10 minutes, which is pretty short. It was perfect for me because at that time I was studying, but at the same time I was preparing for the master's in London to move there. Because I was doing part-time job, these 5 to 10 minute courses were perfect for me. I would listen those courses between the breaks, and I was able to finish multiple courses because the lecture was short, but they gave out very practical and useful lessons that I'll solve it after my work or between the breaks. One thing I really liked about Professor Andrews' course was that they have a community forum. I'm not sure they are teaching assistants or PhD candidates that are responding, but they actively join on the discussion, and if you raise some questions, they also answer about those. But one thing to share is I recommend don't skip the programming assignments that each courses hand out. I've mentioned on my machine learning roadmap, but also that was one of the things that I wasn't really good at, because if they give out all the course assignment, I'll just say, oh, I kind of know this, I'll just skip this. But I would recommend not to skip it because those assignments are directly related to what the courses are trying to deliver to you. So even though you are playing your video in a 1.5 times, 2 times, but still try to move on. So the watching part is not something that teaches you. The building, like writing code part, it actually is. Next, the thing I did after taking deep learning, the neural network courses, learn about the basics of CNN, how each layer is constructed, how we write down on the code. Then I moved on to the deep learning specialization part. This is related to the phase 5 that I've mentioned in a machine learning roadmap video that I've shared. In the field of deep learning, in this giant pool, there are many subfields like NLP, reinforcement learning, CNNs, RNNs, transformers, generative models, so much more. You can be generalist. You need to have a general knowledge, but you need to have your specialty. And the experience of drilling into your own specialty is very critical experience that will set you apart from any other machine learning learners. So for me, what really stuck to me by that time was a model called generative adversarial networks. I personally love image data, 2D, 3D image. I love seeing results by my own eyes. I'm a very impact-driven person. So watching a model learn how to generate the image especially GAN model. It is about the structure that two different neural networks, it competes against each other, trying to fool each other, but also trying to get better, creating the model that has the least loss. But it is also a notoriously hard model to train because there is often things that's happening, mode collapse. Training instability is quite serious in this model because it explodes for no reason and you need to debug it all the time. But however, this experience of diving into the model that I loved, it made me step up my skill set a lot than any other things that I've done. You don't necessarily need to pick GAN. Because I was interested in GAN model in particular, I took GAN specialization course. But I've looked up recently deeplearning.ai or other universities are providing courses such as AI in medicine. I've seen some of my subscribers have commented they've studied biomedical and not sure how to study, but still interested in delving deeper into your specialty, then take a look at AI in medicine courses. There are specialization courses for NLP, the sequence models, the computer vision. Try to pick the one that makes you genuinely curious and be fascinated about. So this curiosity is what gets you through the hard parts. Because in the end, you should enjoy this learning, deep learning, and building this model and putting into implementation if you want to develop a career here. So these 3 steps that I've shared, what I want to emphasize is it's just not about the Coursera platform itself. The order of how I studied, I think that's the part that helped me a lot. Because I started from the phase 1 mathematics, and then I moved on to the machine learning using the book, and then went to deep learning, and then moved on to the deep learning specialization. I feel like AI education courses are very loud and full of noises at this point. I was fairly surprised that people talk about you can learn AI agents, prompt engineering hacks, and build a next generation ChatGPT in a weekend. Maybe you might, but some of them might be genuinely useful. Some of them might be simple and quick enough that you can just copy what other people have done and you need to copy and paste it and run it in your own environment. But I think if you are watching this and you are interested in developing a career, it's really necessary to spend enough time in the field that you want to work on. Please take your time and try to study step by step. If you're interested in AI trend or any other how to learn AI, please like and subscribe. I'll come back with more videos about how I actually developed my careers after my machine learning roadmap, how I went to master's, and then how I actually got the first job that I landed. I'm really trying hard to deliver all my best learnings throughout my experience. So if you have questions, please leave me a comment. I try to check it as often as possible. Sorry if there's a delay. Thank you.